Hey everybody, Whitney LaBrie here, and the holiday season is in full swing. Today we're going to make holiday centerpieces, and we're going to use items that you can probably find in your craft room or your trash bin already. All right, you guys, I am so excited to make these little centerpieces. Here is a 3-tiered metal tray right here. And this I have in my eBay store. I have a couple of these left over, but I thought that it'd be really fun if we made some of these out of cardboard today. So this I'm just going to use as kind of like my sample. The first thing I did was I just cut off a piece of a cardboard box basically. Now I did try to find a thinner cardboard. I think that's going to make it a little bit easier. And then I drew out some circles, and what I used to make my circles is a $50, a nickel, and a penny. And that's going to be the bottom tray, the middle tray, and the top tray. I just drew those out with pencils, and I cut to the inside of the pencil mark. Not that I have to worry about it being seen, but just for sizing is why I did it that way. And then once I had them all cut out, I did use some fine sandpaper to just round out the edges, and that seemed to work really well for me. Now for the edging of the tray, I'm using some cardstock here, but if I didn't have cardstock, another option would be a toilet paper roll. And you could just cut that and use that for the sides also, and that would work out beautifully too. And I'll cut those down, and I'll be using my ultimate glue to glue them together, and then this is what they're going to look like. And I decided what I'll do is 2 3-tiered trays and then 1 2-tiered tray, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. And I want to do a Christmas one, a fall one, and I want to do another Christmas one, but I want to do like a beach theme on that. And so now I've got my 3 little sets here. So 2 of them I want to make as close to the sample one, the metal one that I have here. So I'm going to paint those brown. To start as a base, I'm going to paint them brown. And then for the Christmas one, I do want to paint that one in my bright red here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then for the rest, I'm going to use my handy dandy cinnamon right out of the cabinet so that I can make it look a little rusty. If you followed me for a while, you know that using cinnamon is my absolute favorite way to create a look of rust on my miniatures, and I just love it. And it always smells good. All right, so now what I'm going to do is go ahead and paint the trays in my regular brown color here. I'm going to paint 5 trays inside and outside, and don't forget to paint the bottoms. Now, before your paint is dry, not soaking wet, but still tacky, I suggest you sprinkle in your cinnamon on at that point. I'm going to cover these pretty good because I'm trying to get it as close to my sample metal trays that I have already. So it is going to require quite a bit of cinnamon, which is fine by me. The more the merrier, you know what I mean? And then when they're still wet and when you have the cinnamon on, I'm going to take a little bit more paint and I'm just going to dab it right on over my cinnamon. That's going to give me that texture that I'm looking for. The paint will also seal in the cinnamon. And then any extra, I'm just going to kind of shake it off. And if you want to go over it later when it's fully dry with a little matte varnish, you can do that. And that will fully seal in that cinnamon and give you a nice rusty look. And then I'm going to set those aside to dry quite a bit. And I'm going to move on over to my red trays, and I'll go ahead and paint that fully also with my bright red paint. And this will probably take a couple coats. You know, red is kind of a tricky color anyway, and so it'll probably take 1 or 2 coats. Now for the center dowel for my 3-tiered trays, I'm simply going to use a toothpick, and I'm going to paint them in a matching color. So the red will get a red, and the 2 brown sets will get a brown coat of paint also. Now once everything is dry, it's time to add that center dowel. So I'm just taking my X-Acto knife and giving myself a little starter hole, and then I will pop a hole all the way through with a regular toothpick here. And then once they're all ready to go, I will take my colored center dowel and push that through. Once I have it pushed through, then I'm going to clip off the base to give the one side of the toothpick a nice flat surface and leaving the pointy part sticking up in the center. Now, one of the things that I did with this rusty one is I added a little rust to the center dowel, and I shouldn't have done that because it made it a little bit more difficult for me to push the toothpick through. So for you, if you decide to do this, don't add the rust to the center, and it's not going to really make that much of a difference anyway, because we're going to put so many accessories accessories on it, or hope to put so many accessories on it that you won't even notice. You won't even see it. All right. And then once that dowel is in place, I'm just want to hold up my sample and kind of see how close I am. And it's pretty close. Pretty close. I'm pretty happy with it. And when I do have my little trays in the spots that I want, there's two things that I would recommend doing. Number one is, because we added the paper around the trays, the cardstock, or maybe use your toilet paper roll, you're going to have a seam. So for me, I'm going to try to put all the seams to the back and line them up so they won't really be seen. And then once you have all of that in place, I am going to take some of my little ultimate glue and put a little bit of glue on those to kind of hold those trays in place where they're at. Now, again, I'm going to be filling these with a lot of accessories, and that is also going to keep the trays in place too, but it depends on what you're going to be using them for. So that's something to keep in mind of how much glue. I'm an over gluer, as you guys know, but don't get too crazy if it's not your thing. All right, same with the red. Here's the red. The paint is still a little bit wet right now, and so I'm going to wait for that to dry and then probably add one more coat to that. Okay, now they're fully dry, so let's take a look at them. Here's our original, right? The metal one. Again, if you don't want to make it, you can buy this one on my eBay website. Here's the new one that we made. Here's the brown 3-tier, and then here's the brown 2-tier, and then the red holiday one. All right, so let me focus on this Christmas one first. So here's some samples that I found on Pinterest that really kind of sparked my interest, kind of inspired me, and I thought these were just absolutely adorable. Now, this is a vase filler that I bought at the Dollar Tree, I think over a year and a half ago now. I have used it in many of my miniature projects. You've seen me use this if you follow me again for some time. It's fabulous. I mean, look how much I have left. It's about $1.25, and I've used it for so many different projects. The way I'm going to use it today is I'm going to use it a little bit as a filler, which is exactly what it's supposed to be. So I'm taking my clear Elmer's glue. I'm going to add glue on all three of those trays. So the red and also the 2-tiered brown one, because that's the one I'm going to make into more of a beach Christmas theme. So now I'm going to take my toothpick and I'm just going to smear that glue out and kind of spread it out a little bit more evenly on the top and on the bottom on all three of the trays. And then I'm taking that sand and I'm just going to pour it all in there. Since they're both Christmassy, I wanted them to kind of be filled with a base of, in this case, the red one, let's say it's going to be snow, and in the brown beachy one, it's going to be more like sand. All right, and then what I want to do is just set those aside and let them dry, because I just don't want the sand sticking to anything else, even though I'm about to add a whole bunch of stuff and a whole bunch of glue. Now that they're ready to go, I'm going to get back to my red Christmas one. And let's take a look at some of the things that I've pulled out of my craft bucket. This is another one of those really great projects that you have these little odds and ends that you maybe could use as fillers. And then I have some of these little embellishments, a couple different colors. And I don't know if I'm going to use all these things, but these are the things that I found going through, my little stash. Here's some gold beads that I have. I've got some silver letters. These are kind of fun. Maybe I can use like an S for Santa or something like that. It depends on if it's the scale. These are fun. These are also little beads. I was thinking of using this more as like a finial on the very top. Maybe we could do something like that. Here's a couple of little pine cones. I've got this sign right here that says joy. I've had that for a really long time, just sitting around. Then I've got a couple little jars here with some different kinds of candy canes in them. Got a couple little Christmas trees. I've got some green garland and some little holly berries. Here's just a random one ice skate bottom. I've got this little Santa Claus. Here's a little elf. I've got these crushed glass fillers, that's kind of neat. This was a stocking stuffer from my sister. And of course, glitter. And I do plan on using a lot of glitter today, you guys. All right, so let's get to decorating. So the first thing I'm going to do is I cut down some of that mesh, right? And I thought it would be kind of fun to kind of place it around in there, almost like ribbons, being strung throughout. I'm going to cut down some of that garland and I want to place it in there with some holly berries, and I think I'm going to start with that first, and then once that's in place, then I'm going to put that mesh ribbon inside. And let's take a look at how that's looking so far. All right, I am going to use that little Santa. I love it so much. I think it's so cute. We're going to put him right on the top. Next, I'm going to use that skate bottom, that ice skate bottom, and I'm going to put it on the very bottom tier, kind of shove it in there. And I found a little gingerbread also. So I'm going to put a couple of those on the bottom tray. I think one on each side of the ice skate. That'll add some color. Also, I forgot I had those little gingerbread. They have kind of weird faces, so that's also why I'm putting them on the bottom, because this way just kind of like their little body is being seen better. And so we're not seeing their little weird eyes, their little weird faces. Now I'm going to add a few of the candy canes around. And I have larger ones that are predominantly white with the red stripes, and then I have smaller candy canes that are red with little small thin white stripes. And then I have this string of lights right here. These are non-working Christmas lights. I'm just going to cut these down and I'm use the bulbs themselves, and I'm going to fill those in all around on all 3 of the tiers. I love those bulbs sitting in there. They just give it the exact Christmas shimmer that it needs. And now I'm just looking for holes throughout the display, and I'm going to fill in those different holes with other little cute items. So I'll probably put in a few more of the Christmas bulbs, maybe a couple more candy canes, maybe some more holly berries. I mean, I really want this thing to be packed. And everywhere you look, you just see something really cute and interesting. Okay, and then I think I'm going to add just a little bit more of that mesh ribbon also. I'm going to tuck that in. I'll start from the top and kind of tuck it in all around. And I think what I'm going to do now is take that sign that said joy, and I'm going to go ahead and glue it onto the front of it. And then last but certainly not least, we're going to add a little bit of glitter. We're going to add a little bit or a lot of bit of glitter. Woohoo! And then there you go. There is our Christmas 3-tiered stand. All right, let's move on to the beach one. So this is fun. These are a couple of my inspirational Pinterest pics that I pulled. And of course, being that I live in a beach town, you know, I do have a lot of beach Christmas stuff. I wish I had been able to get up in the attic and pull some of that stuff down for a backdrop, but you know, we're gonna go with it. We're going to go with what we've got. So some of the accessories that I have this little box here of like these little pearls. I've got a couple shells in there. I've got a couple smaller pieces of beach glass. Then I've got a couple of gold starfish here, and it looks like some more shells. And then I've found these little stars too that I thought were fun. And then I did print up this little picture here where it says Noel, peace and joy with shells. And I'm going to cut those down and use those as signs for the tray. So to start, what I thought I'd do is add some of those pearls. They're nice and big and bulky, so I'm going to put 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom. And once those are in place, I'm going to take the shells that I have. I've got 2. I'm going to rub some glue all over them, a pretty thin layer actually, and then sprinkle some of my silver glitter on those and get them really glittery. And then I'm going to glue those in place. And I'll do 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom. And I'll kind of stagger where they are so that they're not both on the same side. I kind of want 1 to the side and maybe 1 to the front. The next thing I'll do is I'll add some of my beach glass into the centerpiece. And I really like that dark blue, but I don't think it's going to work with what I'm doing here, so I won't use that color. But I'll use some of the greens, and then I do have an ice blue piece that I'm going to grab also. And then I'm going to add 1 of the big pine cones. I was going to use them on the other one, but I decided it might be a better fit on this one. So for this one, I'm going to use this big gold starfish, and I'm going to have it kind of sitting within the tray, but also glued to the top part. I think that'll give a little bit of fun interest to this tray, this centerpiece. And then I'm going to take those little stars and I'm going to place them all around the tray, on the top and the bottom. And then there's that ice blue beach glass right there. I found it, so I'm going to go ahead and tuck that in too. And add a few more stars. And then I want to add those signs. So I just cut them down and I glued them to my thin cardstock just to give them a little bit more stability. And then I'm going to go ahead and place those in. I'll do 1 on the top and then 2 on the bottom tier. Now I just want to add a little bit more glue, like I didn't have enough. And I'm going to sprinkle some gold glitter on this one. All right, and I got crazy with the glitter, so there's a little too much. So I'm going to brush some of that off. I'm going to let it dry, and then I'll probably brush a little bit more off too. But I do like the way it looks. I think it's looking very beach Christmas. For the fall centerpiece, these were my inspirational pieces here. I just love them. I love those colors. And since I'm the type of person, I don't decorate for Christmas until after Thanksgiving. So my house is still very fall, although I have put away my Halloween decorations, sadly. So for this tray though, I would really like to add some fruit. And I'm thinking some oranges and maybe some Asian pears. And so I'm just using my air dried clay. I'm going to make some really primitive looking fruit here. I'm going to make some round spheres and I'm going to dot them up with my toothbrush here to give it that dimple look of the orange rind. So I'm going to make maybe about 3 of those. And then I'm also going to make a pear, which actually just looks like a little teardrop. And I'll let those dry fully. And then for my orange, I'm just going to paint it orange, go figure. And then for the Asian pear, I'm going to, with this color called antique gold. And I'm painting them, letting them dry. And then if I want to add a couple details, I might add a little green top or a little dark brown base just to show like where the stem is or the stem was, and that's fine. And we'll put those aside and let them fully dry. In the meantime, I'm taking my 3-tiered rusty brown tray here, right? And I'm going to fill it up with this lichen. And I'm going with a really light green and almost like a tan color. And I'll just put my glue in there and then glue those in place on all 3 levels. Now I have these clay sunflowers here. These came out of the 15-room dollhouse refurb out of the original Wizard of Oz baby room. These were some of the flowers that were in there. So I salvaged them. They were still in great shape. And I'm going to now cut them down and fill up this fall tier with these. So I definitely want to make sure I have at least 1 on every level, but the bottom tray has enough room for 2. Then I found this vase and it had a couple little fall looking flowers, so I'm going to cut those out. And then I have like this little rose in a great fall color and I want to cut that off, and then I'm going to incorporate those into each level also. Then I have this little clay pumpkin here. I thought it was a perfect size for this, so I'm going to incorporate that. And I have this little earring right here. It's a turkey earring, but it's just one on its own. I don't have the match and it doesn't have a back, so I'm going to incorporate that also. Now that my fruit's dry, I'm going to add that. I'm going to add 2 fruit to each level. So 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom tray, and then 2 in the middle. Now I have a few apples. I definitely think the centerpiece needs a little bit of a red color. I do have some pre-made apples already, so I'm going to just take a few of those and put a couple of those in there. And then I have some leftover fall floral. This was like a mini floral that I bought at Michael's a long time ago. So I'm going to clip off a little piece of that and then trim that down and just incorporate these little pieces into the centerpiece also. Now this is also vase filler that I have. It isn't to like a 12 scale or anything. I just bought a bag of it and I've been using a little bit here and there over the years, and I thought it would be fun to incorporate that into this piece also, just as a final touch. I think it adds a lot of charm to it. And that's it. We're all done with the centerpieces, except that I do need to still add a finial to the top of each one of them. So I did a green one for the Christmas red one, I did a turquoise one for the beach one, and then you can see here I've got a little orange finial on the top, and those were these beads that I had pulled out earlier in the video. So I thought it'd be really fun now if we just took our centerpieces and did just some quick tables. I'm not going to go crazy with it. We'll just add a few things just so we can get an idea of the centerpiece with some accessories. All right, and there's our Christmas table with our centerpiece. Now for the beach one, again, a lot of my accessories are not unpacked, so I'm just going to go with what I had on hand here. So here's our little beach centerpiece. Yeah, that's going to be cute. I mean, with that one, you could really have such a tablescape, right? With more shells, a really fun table runner, some blue or turquoise plates. You could just, I can't wait to really fully decorate for that table and that centerpiece. That's going to be really fun. And here's the fall one, of course. Well, look who's here. Oh my gosh, Tiny Whitney, it's so good to see you. Wait, what do you got on your, what's going on? What do you have on your head? Oh, I see. Are you trying to tell us something? That you have maybe been wearing a lot of hats lately and that's why you haven't been around? Well, I think we all understand. What do you think of our centerpiece? You love it. Oh, well, I'm so happy to hear that. All right, everybody. Well, that's it for this week. I hope that you enjoyed these centerpieces. I hope that you tried to make these out of your cardboard and your cardstock and any leftover accessories or odds and ends that you might have that you're like, I don't know what to do with this. This might be a really great project for you. Let me know if this is something that you're wanting to try, and let me know if you do it. I would love to hear about it. If you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and do so you don't miss any other episodes. Like this video, share this video. It really helps the channel grow. Everybody have a really great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.